Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of VP's Guest List. I'm your host, VP, and the guest stopping by today for a conversation is a performance reporting associate. He's a real estate investor. He's the guy that always laughs through all circumstances of life, and he's the friend that can never beat me in tennis, even though he taught me how to play. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Rotchild. Hey, man, how you doing today?
Hey Victor, I'm good. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And about the tennis, man,
How do you like that intro?
I think you're lying to the people about the tennis because I'm pretty good at it.
Are you sure about that? I mean, last I recall, my record was, spotless against you. So, you know.
I'm not sure if you recall correctly, but that wasn't the case.
All right. But moving into the discussion. So, you know, one, I want you to walk me through, your background. Right now you're a performance, reporting associate. Talk to us about, how you got here, your pathway. Did you go to college? You took a certification? How did you end up where you are? And, talk to us about how, whether it was college or whatever, helped you to get to where you are now.
Yeah, so it was college definitely. A little bit about my background is in high school, I was introduced through a scholarship program where they introduced me to Wake Forest, which is where I went, and I got to tour the school. Going through that school, I fell in love with it, and then so I ultimately attended Wake. And through Wake, I came in with the idea of being a going into becoming a general surgeon. That wasn't the case, as you can see now. Switched about my sophomore year. I took an economics class and fell in love with it. After taking that class, I decided to pursue education in economics, and further that through that, as I learned more and I grew my knowledge at Wake, I was able to get connected with the company I am with now. I did an internship. I was connected through my scholarship program as well. They allowed me to connect with this company because they were offering a position open for an intern. So applied, got it, then worked there for a bit, continued working there for a good bit, and ultimately I went from intern to part time, ultimately to full time, and I've been there for about a good little bit over 3 years now.
Okay, okay. So I guess, you said you started wanting to be a general surgeon. What made you, make the transition? What made you say that, what, maybe this is not for me? You said you fell in love with economics class, but was it just that, or were you already looking away from, pivoting away from being a surgeon?
Yeah. So what kind of I guess pulled me away from surgery was ultimately my first year of college. I did the mistake of taking about four hard classes, 18 credits in 1 year. I took chemistry, biology, calculus, and I wouldn't recommend. And definitely whooped my butt. I had no time in my hands. Was suffering that first 4 year, and I was kind of questioning everything. Then kind of about the question of is this something I'm really passionate about? And through that process, through that introspective thinking, ultimately decided, maybe feel like becoming a doctor, it has to be something you're passionate about because it takes a lot of years of education. It takes a lot of years of dedication. So I've decided that, this wasn't really something I'm passionate about. It was more of something I was chasing to more fulfill a goal for, being coming from a Haitian background. Your parents want you to go to a certain specific field, which includes doctor. So it was more of fulfilling that goal. So I kind of took a step back. Then ultimately, took that economics class. Then after taking that economic classes, that's when my interest for that grew, and I kind of pursued that.
Yeah, no, you make some really good points. I'm, from an African household as well, and or it's a little bit different from Haitian, but I feel like it's the same way in the sense that parents want you to be, either a doctor, lawyer, engineer, which I understand, right? It makes sense. That's what they've known for a long time, and that's what they've seen, give people success. And I was also pre-med. I know we were in the same. We might have been in one of the same chemistry class, if I'm not mistaken, in freshman year or sophomore year or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I also pivoted away from that. I'm not a doctor, but I think ultimately, to your point, doing what really intrigues you and you're passionate about definitely is the best way to go in my eyes.
Yeah, yeah.
But I guess away from that, what drew you particularly to performance reporting? Was it, you said, your scholarship gave you an opportunity with the company you're at where they were having an internship. So, was it something you sort of stumbled upon or you had access to? And so that's what, you ultimately focused on, or were you also uh looking at other options, whether it's, other roles in finance or whatever have you, or, just talk to us about your process, how you ended up being or picking performance reporting.
Right. So what kind of drew me to performance reporting initially when I did like as I stated before, when I did intern, I started as a sort of performance role. But prior to that, I got to kind of test out every single role in the company. And there were some different roles that were interesting, but the reason why I continued with performance reporting is I guess first to get my ultimate goal is to become a consultant. And I feel like performance was a great way to build that base knowledge, to build understand how to keep track of what's going on with clients' portfolios, understand what's going on there, and how to keep track of it. And I wanted to build my solid foundation before I go to the next level. So I see performance as the perfect stepping stone to that.
Okay. No, yeah, that makes sense. And I guess, can you give our listeners and viewers an idea of what a typical day looks like for you? Is it long hours? Are you, having client meetings? Are you meeting with other teams? Just give people an insight into what it feels like to be Rotchild on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, yeah. What it means to be a performance supporting, it's particularly in my shoes. What it looks like for a day to day for me is, of course, it depends on the month, but my busiest month is the following month after the quarter ends. So this means if the quarter ends in March, then the following month after is when I get busy. I Depending on which side you are, we do break the company up into two sides where you have a DB defined contribution side and a DC side defined contribution and defined benefits, which is DB, and then DC is defined contribution. I'm particularly on the DC side where most of my heavy flow comes quarterly, and I do have some side projects as the month goes before that quarter comes up. So it does. I do keep busy with that, but what it looks like once this quarter rolls around, first, what we're looking to do is we're looking to retrieve those clients' data, whereas it could be in form of statements, it could be in form of any documents that we may need that holds clients' information such as their market values, their statements that show contribution, statements that show any sort of cash flow that's going on with the statements with the client's portfolio. And I guess just to give a little background, we don't deal with high network. We deal with more institutional clients. So we're looking at more of a corporate clients, for example, such as let's say if Disney has a 401k plan, then we're dealing with that. Or if any other company has something like that, then that's what we're dealing with. And what it looks like for me is once we retrieve that once we retrieve that statement, now we have a system that we use. We go in the system, we put in the data, we log what the beginning market value is versus the ending market value. Depending on which side you're in, we it requires more data, and depending on how complex the client you're working with is, you might need additional data. So as you go through the process, and then you have external documents that you're putting into the system, you're building certain pages for the book as well. And once you're done with that, you put everything in the system, you run it. The system takes a little while, but once that's over and done with, you are able to print out a report that where we get to the consultants to where they give us a due date. We make sure we're meeting that demand, we're meeting that due date, and we give it to the consultants to where they go into those client meetings and present those books to the clients itself.
Okay. Okay, no, very interesting. So I guess, you mentioned that you guys deal with more institutional clients versus high net worth individuals. Is that sort of like the strategy for the firm? Is that like the preference, and can you talk to us about if there's any sort of differences between the two, like working with a Disney, like you mentioned, or working with, I don't know, a LeBron James or something like that?
Yeah, yeah, there is a difference, and I think initially we didn't have much of a structure when it came to that, but I think we're doing a great job building a structure now, and we're trying to differentiate a bit to where we're required by Mariner is where I work, and
Mhm.
Mariner's more of a holistic firm where they are a wealth. They have a wealth side as well. They have an institutional side. They're trying to differentiate those different aspects of it. So we sent some of our high net worth clients to them when they sent some of their clients to us. So now we're working particularly with as stated before with institutional clients. It's sort of big corporate clients that have employees who have retirement funds. Well, what we're doing is once they want to invest that money and they come to someone like us. They're asking, hey, what's a good manager to use? How do we want this money to grow? So we essentially work as an fiduciary, an advisor, sorry, to make sure to keep track of all of the performance, and keep track of everything going on, and advise them on the plan. So that's sort of what it looks like versus a sort of more of the wealth side, which is individuals. Whereas you have individuals like LeBron James, we're not working with individuals that are looking to manage their holistic portfolio. We're more of simply looking to help those corporate companies that are looking to have their employees retire on time and have a safe retirement. So
Yeah, no, I mean, hey, that's very important. They're working 40 years. Let's hope that they have something at the end of that in retirement to enjoy. So definitely, very important work that you do. You also have the, CPFA certification, which is the Certified Plan Fiduciary Advisor designation. Can you talk about, how holding that certification has enhanced your credibility or your credentials? And how does that overall, is that like a necessary certification in your field to have, or is it just something that you did just to make you stand out?
okay. Yeah. So when it comes to the CPFA, CPFA is once you go through that course, once you go through NAPA, sign up for it, it mostly focuses on sort of understanding the logistics of what to do and what not to do when it comes to how to make sure you're following SEC guidelines as well as ERISA guidelines to make sure you're staying within those boundaries and not violating any client's rights or making sure you're not having the wrong motive for for sponsors versus the client beneficiaries. And do I think it's a necessary? I think it is pretty good to have, but I don't think it's necessarily end all. If you don't have it, it doesn't mean you can't join this role or do a certain task. But I think it is important to have because it does build that base. So I would
Okay.
recommend it, but I don't think it's ultimately necessary as much.
Okay. Okay. No, yeah, that's great insights for all our listeners and viewers. So you talked about the quarter ends being some of the more busy times doing your job work. Can you talk about, what the most challenging part of your role is? Is it, I don't know, like whether it's having to do Excel or like having to, structure large data sets or something like that. Can you just talk to us about what is the worst part of your job if you had to put it that way?
I would say the hardest part when it comes to that busy season, it's I wouldn't say necessarily one task. It's more of how to manage every task coming at you. You because you do have a lot of tasks coming at you. You do have tasks that you ultimately didn't expect, but let's say for example, an advisor didn't get something into our system, then they reach out to us, say, hey, I'm really sorry, but I need this as soon as possible. Then you gotta add that to the additional list of things of 100 things that you had to do. So you do have to have some good time management skills when it comes to performance supporting. You do have to know how to
Mhm.
manage your time wisely, and then the ultimate goal is to stay ahead. Try to stay ahead of due dates. Try to get everything out as soon as possible, and you can't let it catch up to you for sure. If it's something that catches up to you, it won't be good. It'd be
Okay.
really really hectic. So.
All right. And I guess, perfect segue into the next question, which is going to be, about, AI. So, AI is a big thing now. Everyone is trying to find a way to use AI in some way, shape, or form. I even use AI with sort of, generating topics for the show. You know, is there any part of your job that you think AI can, you know, take over or like automate? Maybe it doesn't like take you guys away, but like helps you guys, make do stuff, quickly or faster, and just really complement you guys.
Uh, well, I think that's a bit difficult question, but I think AI is pretty powerful in what it could do, and I'd love to see more like the full capability of it. Although some people may disagree, but I think right now there are certain steps in our process that makes it a bit difficult for AI to completely take it over, and like there are individual like custom temp things that we do to the reports that make it a bit hard for us to just have AI generated. But I think if we are able to simplify reports and have it to a certain manner where we wouldn't do too much custom data, then through that we would be able to use AI. But as of now, I don't think AI would be the fully effect be able to fully take over that role. But I think I do see AI used in some parts of my job. Where is when we have a meeting, we add like something to take notes in that meeting, an
Hmm.
AI vehicle to take notes. I think that's really helpful because sometimes not everybody's taking notes, or we don't have one individual person who is assigned to taking notes. So having that AI helper right there helps make everything simple. All you have to do is after get in, edit, make an edit, and you're able to send out meeting notes after that. So I do see certain mechanics of AI making our job a lot more simpler further in the future for sure.
Okay. So guys, what he's saying is this is an AI proof job. You guys should all make sure if you're scared of the AI coming and replacing jobs, this is the place you want to be. Um, but one of the reasons why I created this show, right, is to give viewers and listeners advice, especially if they're looking for career change or in college, whatever, and thinking about their options. So, what advice would you give, someone who's trying to break into your field, the performance reporting field, or just, all the strategies or all the things that you do at your firm? What advice would you give people looking to break into your space?
Yeah, for people looking to break into the space, whether you're a incoming student, or I guess an outgoing student, or a individual who have worked in the finance profession but looking to change your space, I think it is important. There are certain certificates that is important if you are a person who wants to stay in performance long term. For example, the CIPM is really important when it comes to performance. I think that is as a key. If you have that certification, it looks really good on you. And the CFA as well. CFA, I think, is good for many spaces in finance. So if you have that coming in, that makes you look really good. And I guess as we all know, it is a bit hard when you're applying for jobs nowadays. But I think one thing many people have said before is to use your connections. I think when you're able to use your tap into your connections or talk to somebody that works at a certain field, or reach out, even if it's somebody you don't know, go on LinkedIn, reach out to somebody you don't know, have a conversation, build a relationship through that, and just kind of keep open conversation. And through that, I think many connections happen to where you're able to get that opportunity at a firm such as Mariner.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I think sometimes, it's not what you know, is who you know, or honestly,
Sure.
even better, who knows you. Because if
Yeah.
people who are in a higher position know you and know you're interested, they definitely are able to extend a helping hand and, give you a position. But moving away, you touched early on, you touched on, your goal, long-term goal is to then use your role now to pivot to become a consultant, right? Can you, explain what part of consulting you want to go into, I guess, what the end goal, or if even if you're still unsure and you're just, looking at consulting as a whole, just talk to us about why you want to be a consultant.
Yeah, yeah. I'm still definitely looking at consulting as a whole, and why I want to be a consultant is I think as many of my friends probably know me, I'm pretty much a people's person. I love having conversation with individuals, and being a behind a computer desk isn't, I guess, my ideal role. So I just want to use sort of that skill within my profession itself, and having those client facing roles as well puts me in a position to where I'm working with the company to help the company grow. Compared to, of course, I'm not saying performance supporting is not helping the company grow, but I think advisors getting in clients and maintaining those clients is what ultimately brings that revenue to the company. So I think being a pivotal person, such as an advisor, is an ideal goal for me, and I think that's the ultimate goal and what I want to reach.
Okay. This is a good segue. So, you talk about wanting to talk to people, and not just being stuck behind a desk. I've known you for a while now, and you're someone who's always bubbly, always smiling, always, cheerful, no matter what circumstance it is. Can you talk to us about, what have made you be that, right? Like, how do you keep smiling every time, how you're like a people person? Is it just personality, you're just an extrovert, you like talking to people? Just talk to us through that, and how you are who you are, I guess.
Yeah. I guess what I would say for that is I think it sort of comes down to personality. I am a bit of an extrovert, so I think I kind of like having the conversations. Kind of love hearing others' story and love building that connection with other people. And I guess what keeps me smiling is I would say maybe my outlook in life. I think I have a pretty positive outlook in life, and I find when even when issues come or when hardships come, I find those as what kind of makes life worth it. Because without any challenges, without any issues, life would be a little mundane. So I guess having an optimistic look in life is what keeps me smiling for sure.
Wow, I don't think I've ever heard someone say I need issues to make life more interested.
Well, of course,
I mean,
I'm not chasing issues, but
yeah, I don't
issues
think
come in
I
life. But
Yeah, yeah. Listen, I would want to live my life stress free, no issues whatsoever. But hey, if that's how you interpret it, I think maybe that's how I should look at it, right? Have such a positive outlook on life, and maybe I'll smile more. But for me, I would rather be stress free. But it is what it is. um, good segue into our next topic. So, want to talk about personal finance, right? I've known you since, college, and I remember back in 2020, obviously we had the stock market crash because of the pandemic. Um, you know, Talk to us about how, that period of time shaped your investing acumen, or, whether you or just talk to us about that period of volatility, because I think one, we know that usually when there's a huge market crash, people are panicking. People don't know what to do. But you had a different strategy. I think you were buying Bowen at that time, if I'm not mistaken, even though no one
Mhm.
was going anywhere. So just talk to us about one, how you navigate that situation, and then we'll tie it into how you got into investing in stocks in general.
Yeah. So I guess just to take a step back, how I got into investing in stocks is initially I knew this individual. It was through the scholarship program that I'm speaking of, Elevation, where he started. I just started asking him questions about investing, and he told me about this new world that I never heard of investing, or
Mhm,
stocks and portfolios. So
mhm,
hearing about that, it caught my interest. This was my senior year of high school, and through that, I just started asking him a bunch of questions. Started doing a bunch of research on my part as well, and ultimately, I asked him what's the best platform to start in, and he gave me some recommendations. And I opened up a brokerage account and started there. But and I've been investing ever since then. But I guess when it comes to 2020, that was definitely an uncertain time for a lot of people. I think 2020 came with a lot of hardships for sure, and a lot of people were scrambling and panicking. But I think, I guess, if you're in somebody who works in the financial industry, you understand that when those uncertain times come, it comes with a lot of potential. And so what I decided personally to do is use that potential. And as you can see, there are many companies, falling, and I think that's so some of us got into what we call options trading. Wouldn't recommend it if you don't have much knowledge, but we played with that a bit in college, and we lost a bit of money for sure, but we made a bit. Can't say if we all recovered fully, but but I think
Yeah.
through that we were able to understand that, hey, the market's falling, so let's go ahead and put a bunch of puts, because we know for sure the market's going to continue falling. It's been doing that for a while, so we put a bunch of puts, made some money, and pulled out, and we realized this is something that's working. And
Mhm.
of course, you got to pay attention to what's going on, and pay attention to news, pay attention to like how charts look for some individuals who love charting, and just pay attention to all that, and making sure that, hey, we expect things to turn around soon, so let's slow down on putting a lot of puts in. Let's start to, see how the market reacts to certain things that are going on currently, and then through that, once the market starts overturning, because we know what goes down must come up for sure. At least when it comes to the markets, as we can see historically.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
so with that, we were looking to buy a bunch of things at discount, because things are cheap now. So let's buy a bunch of things. Let's buy a bunch of stocks. Hold them for the long term, and through that, I think some of us got into Apple, Tesla, a bunch of tech stocks for sure, a bunch of I think medical stocks at the time, because that was something big going on during COVID, and we looked at different avenues as well. So we got into a bunch of stocks, bought them, hold them, and now I guess they're looking good now, because as we could see, the market did what it's supposed to do, and it went up. So I
Yeah.
think that's what we have to look at. Look at the holistic picture, not just kind of cling onto that panic stage when it comes to performance, or when it comes to the markets for sure.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree. I think I had Stevenson, as the episode before you, and we were talking about that too, about how we played options in, Nike, Zoom, as well, and I think even Darden, if I'm not mistaken. We made a lot of money, right? But then,
Yeah.
just before a trip to Miami, we got a little bit greedy and wanted to make, you know, we pretty much said all in into Costco calls, and Costco missed earnings, tanked significantly, and then I mean, no, it was a sad sight going to Miami. We could have, it was two, drastic options, right? It was either we're gonna be on yachts balling out, or we're just gonna be, very, very broke while in Miami. And unfortunately, the broke part was what actually happened. So,
Right. It definitely succumbed
um,
to succumb us for sure. So.
it definitely did. But yeah, to your point, I think the key that viewers should get from this is that, like, you know, especially when there's so much uncertainty and panic in the market, sometimes it could be a good opportunity to buy, especially for the, good companies, like you said, tech companies, well-established companies, healthcare, pharmaceuticals, maybe even, and even, consumer staples, right? Like, people are not going to stop eating food just because, like, the market is down 20%, right? People are going to still eat food. And so these are opportunities where you could buy. And so, you guys are getting firsthand advice from someone who has done it, in one cycle before, and he has had success. So definitely pay attention to that. And also along the lines of personal finance, you're, probably one of my first friends to get a house, right? You bought a house, I think last year or 2 years ago. Can you talk to us about, what went into your decision to get a house, and you're using it for an investment opportunity, right? So you're renting out to others, and also what are your plans long term? Do you plan to acquire more properties? What's the game plan here?
Yeah. So a bit of how I started is during that time of my journey of investing, I started saving money that I worked in with, small jobs that I when I worked at Olive Garden, when I worked at Walmart, those jobs in high school, and then while in college, I started saving, everything that I can, saving a couple of thousands here and there. And as graduation came closer, I realized, I had a decent chunk of money that I wanted to what you hear a lot when you watch videos about investing is you want to make your money work for you. And of course, I was putting them within stocks, but I wanted to go into a different avenue. And real estate was one of those avenues that always piqued my interest. And through that, I did a lot of research. I do recommend if anybody's going to get into real estate, make sure you do your research. Real estate is not something you just want to hop into without doing any research because it comes with a lot of things. So I did a bunch of research. I learned about a bunch of programs that could help me buy it for a lot cheaper, and through that, I was able to start the journey of buying a process, which is about 2 years ago. And I bought this property through a conventional loan program. And of course, if I guess you don't know, conventional, you do have to live in there for 1 year. So I lived there for my year, lived there for about a year and a half, and then started doing some renting out some rooms, did some arbitrage there, and through
House
that,
hacking. Yeah.
yeah, some house hacking, yeah, yeah. And then through that, I once that year ran out, I was decided to, hey, I want to move out and rent out the whole property. So did a bunch of research of how to be an effective landlord because I want to give the individuals who's renting to me a ideal like a situation. Don't want to be any of those horrible stories you hear online. So did a bunch of research on that for sure, and through that I was able to find some good tenants to rent it out to, and they're still there now. So very grateful for that, and yeah, I'm not having any issues. There's
Yeah.
been there are issues that come up when it comes to owning a property, such as things that might break or things that you might have to replace. So it is a learning process for sure. But as long as you did your research and you stay up to date with everything and you treat everybody as a decent human being, then I think it is something you can look forward to.
Yeah, yeah. Definitely don't be one of those landlords who just jacks up rent on people, and also doesn't give people their deposit after they leave. Like, don't be don't be one of those guys. But no, I mean, I think great idea. I also want to buy a house at some point. But to your point, you definitely need to do a lot of research and try to understand you know what the processes are and also the cost because I think people always think like, and maybe you can talk about this too, like what you see, like the price of the house is not all that goes into buying a house, right? You have closing costs, like there are a lot of costs that go into. So can you talk to people, just give some people more insights about the cost, and also now that you're a landlord, like are you having to pay for landscaping, mowing the lawn, etc.? Like what amenities are you offering your tenants?
Yeah, yeah. So I guess what goes into cost when buying property is initially when you're sitting on that closing, or before you even get to the closing table, once you've committed to saying you're buying this property, you have to purchase an inspection. I would highly recommend everyone do an inspection, even if it's a new build. I did get a new build, and even with that, there were some issues that come up. And through that inspection, you're able to figure out those issues and get them resolved before you actually make the purchase of the property. And the inspection is a decent amount depending on who you go through. It's not too bad though, but it is a decent amount. So there's that cost. You do have to pay depending on what real estate individual you work with. You do have to pay their company. You do have to pay when it comes to the closing costs. There are costs that is what I talked about paying the real estate company. You do have to pay the real estate company, the closing off the loaning officer, sorry, and then there's a bunch of other costs that are categorized within that closing cost itself. So it is, even if you're doing something such as let's say conventional, which was I believe 5%, or even FHA, which was 3.5%, you do have to take into account an additional 3% or so because that's going to be what you're paying for closing costs as well. And even after buying the property, as stated before, there's a bunch of costs that comes up. I did the inspections, but the water heater started acting up. Had to spend a bunch of change for that. Stove started acting up, so I had to replace that. And those costs you don't expect, so you do have to make sure that you're planning for those. And staying safe when it comes to those.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
think
and
I think I
also,
missed one more part of your question, Victor. What was the last part?
yeah, I was gonna ask, just obviously the costs, but also, I talked about, do you plan to, or what amenities you give
Oh yeah,
your
right.
tenants, like, are they paying utilities, or are you covering that yourself and all
Yeah,
that good
yeah.
stuff?
Yeah, so I guess right now, though, as for the landscape and that's totally up to them. I'm not dealing with that one, but I am the one who was paying for such as the garbage pickup, making sure everything looks good on that part, and I'm responsible for any as all landlords are, I'm responsible for any hardware issues that comes up with any of the big appliances that that may happen. So anything that comes, they don't have to worry about it. I'm gonna handle all that, replace it. They're not. I think that's one of the good things about renting. You don't have to worry about coughing up a good change for those costly appliances. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I guess, moving forward, is it your plan to, gain more properties, or, you trying to become a real estate mogul in Florida? Like, what's the plan? What's the grand vision here?
yeah, yeah, that definitely be the plan. I do want to acquire more properties as time goes on. I think Florida is a great market when it comes to being a landlord and renting out. But I do want to branch out to other states for sure because I think although Florida is a great market, it is now becoming a bit pricey. So I do want to branch out to other states that are not as costly as Florida for sure. So as you know, you wanna spend as little money as possible. So if you could buy cheap and let the property value grow up, then that's ideal. So
Yeah. No, yeah, I agree. I think, Florida, New York, California, um, um, maybe even what the DMV area, and
yeah,
those Boston, etc. Like those places are very expensive, and it's
oh yeah,
especially right now to be starting out. I think it's better to maybe start the Carolinas, South Carolina, or like some maybe even Texas or something. I don't know.
mm.
Um, but you've talked about investing a lot. It seems like that's where a lot of your time and attention goes to. But how do you balance that, right? Like, are you someone who likes to travel a lot, party a lot? I know anecdotally that you always like to go somewhere, but can you talk to the viewers about how you balance work with investing, but also having time to yourself and having time to your friends and loved ones?
Yeah, yeah. I'm definitely somebody who loves to travel. So we always have to make time for that. But you always have to be considerate of like when your busy seasons are. I think understanding when your busy seasons are, that's when you're gonna have to sit down and actually crank out some work, and then travel when you're not that busy because you don't have that too many tasks on
Hmm.
your plate. You could take some PTO off from jobs. It won't affect anything. And how do I manage that? I think as I stated before, with understanding your schedule, and also you're going to be busy at times, but you're going to have to rest. So you're going to have to rest your body to recuperate from those tedious seasons. So I think building those time into your schedule is pretty important, and making sure you take some time off for yourself because health is wealth. So so making
No,
sure
yeah.
you take care of your body is it should be the primary goal of everything. And then once you start to build that schedule and have that ranking, everything starts to fall into place for sure.
Yeah, well, no, yeah, that makes sense. And to your point about health is wealth, I was laughing there because, like, I'm still young, but like some days, you walk up a flight of stairs and you're just like, man, like I guess I'm getting old. Like I could
I
10
feel
years
that.
ago, I didn't think about this, but now I have to like, man. But so, definitely got to balance out working and still, taking care of yourself. But away from that, I had Stevenson on, the episode before you, like I said. He just popped the question to his, long-term girlfriend, Morgan, which, we're all friends. And so
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
aware of that as well. Wedding coming up. You also had a partner, right, for quite some while. Can
yeah,
we,
yeah.
maybe an exclusive on the show? Are we expecting something in the near future? I mean, you don't have to, spoil it or anything like that, but
So depending on when you drop this clip, depending on how much I could say, but there is something on the way. And yeah, yeah, I'll let you guys know for sure. But yes, me and my
okay.
partner, we've been together for a good amount of time. We hit our
Yeah.
10 years this past March, and
Hmm.
yeah, we're looking to get to the next step and looking to continue that journey out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't want to spoil anything, so you don't have to give any details. But 10 years, it's a long time, man.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sure there are a lot of single people listening to this. What advice would you give people to have such a long lasting relationship with someone and be able to hopefully go to the next stage? Are there any lessons you've learned and any advice you would like to give to people in general?
Yeah, yeah. I don't think it's something you haven't heard before, but first off, as we all know, when it comes to something working with another individual, it's going to be hard. You're going to face those challenges. You're going to face those times where you don't even feel like having that communication. But I think, as I say, communication is pretty key to relationships because we can't read each other's mind, no matter how long we've known each other or how much we want to know each other. That's just simply something that human beings cannot do. And having that open communication and having those conversations, and also having that patience. I think patience is definitely key because that's one thing I would say me and my partner we both learned through that process for sure. Because it definitely wasn't a smooth process, but nonetheless we had that patience with each other. We communicated, and yeah, that I think those two key things got us to where we are now. So that would be my recommendation to any individual who's looking to continue that long journey.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I mean that's great. All great advice. Hopefully, we wish you guys the best, and hopefully if there's something in the horizon coming up, hopefully we'll be there to support you guys and celebrate together. Um, but when I was giving the intro, right, I said I'm a better tennis player than you, essentially. Can you talk to us about one how where you learned tennis? I think you started in high school, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And are you regularly playing that now, or have you moved away into like another sport, whether it's running or whatever the case may be?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I started tennis back in my senior year of high school. I was some of you may know I was in the IB program, so it didn't leave a lot of time to do other sports. So I sort of got to those sports that didn't take too hard of a commitment from me, such as tennis. I did bowling, did a bit of golf, and yeah, through that, tennis was my favorite. It kept me active, it kept me on my feet, and I picked it up pretty quick. Didn't win too much tournaments, but nonetheless, I,
And
I
still not winning against me.
still continue going. But don't let Victor fool you. I whoop Victor's butt every time we play now. But and then went into college. We played a bit, us and a couple of friends in college, and as I stated before, that's when I handed Victor's butt right back to him, and dude, I don't play now as much as possible. Not as much as I want to. I think it is a bit difficult to find the time and individuals who are more open to play now because we're all scattered around the U.S. So I did get to other sports. I've done pickleball for a bit, where I play with a bunch of coworkers. I've enjoyed that. That's pretty interesting and keeps me active as well. And yeah, I've gotten into running. Picked that up. Started doing a couple of miles. Started with 1 mile, grew and then slowly grew my endurance. And I've enjoyed running. I think running is one of those things that helps me clear my mind, helps me, I guess what you say, stay happy. So
Yeah.
I've enjoyed that and continued that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know about running helping me clear my mind, man. I feel like every time I'm running, I'm just like, man, I'm really running. Like I would rather
When can I stop?
play. Exactly. Where could I stop, man? Like, man, I feel like I've been running for 10 minutes to look at my, watch and it's like, oh, you've only run for 30 seconds. And it's like, man, I I just want to stop. I wish I could just like, honestly, I'd rather play sports.
Yeah, yeah.
Me personally, I think sports are, you know, keep my attention at least.
Yeah, It's more of the mindset when it comes to sports. I think sports, you're not constantly thinking about you doing it. You're just doing it because your mind is on, oh, I gotta win. I think when it comes to running is one of those things. Is definitely about mindset. If you're constantly thinking of, oh, like when can I stop, or when can I take this next break because I'm tired, which is understandable. I think you just gotta, I guess, run for the purpose of, yeah, for it could be different for individuals. I guess personally for me, I just kind of run for the purpose of I enjoy running, and then of course, to get in shape and do that. Once you start slowly building that endurance, I think that's what I found most people to fall in love with it. Once you're like, oh,
Yeah,
this is getting a lot easier than I first started off with, you start enjoying that accomplishment, and you
yeah,
start seeing it more as a challenge to, oh, if I could do this, then I definitely could do 2 miles next, and I can do three. And then once you start going, you're like, oh, this, I've accomplished this, and it kind of gives you that competitiveness within it, and it keeps your mind off of what you're actively doing in the moment. So
yeah, yeah. No, the runner's high is real.
yeah, yeah.
I can't say I've experienced it yet, but I know I know from you that it's real. So I'll take your word for it. But on the tennis front, like who's your favorite player? Both male, female. Do you have any you know players that are your favorites?
Yeah, yeah. I do. Of course, I love the classic Serena Williams. I grew up on Serena Williams when she was dominating the field in tennis. Loved to watch her play, and I feel like she was a force to reckon with, and that was kind of what I wanted to be out in the tennis courts. And I'm sure you could speak to it, Victor. I was a force to reckon with.
That's not true, guys. That's not true.
But yeah, I love to see all the new players coming in as well. And I think there's another one. Um, she's
Coco Golf, maybe I
Haitian.
think. Oh
No, she's
no,
Haitian,
Naomi
Haitian
Osaka.
and
Naomi
Asian.
Osaka.
Yeah, Naomi Osaka. I love seeing her
Yeah.
play as well, and kind of bringing back, the nationality part. Her kind of putting that into it as well. I love seeing that as well. So
Yeah, yeah. And on the male side, do you have any guy that you like
on
or
the male
not?
side, uh, not in particular, and not something I could think of right off the top of my head. Uh, so no, I'm still just sort of looking. I
Got
don't
you.
watch tennis as much as I should have, so I don't think I have um much of a male side for sure.
Yeah. No, I mean there are great few great people, especially on the young side. You have Ben Shelton, Carlos Alcaraz. You have a few people who are actually good who can become
Oh
like
yeah,
the
oh
next
yeah,
like Roger Federer or like um Nadal or something like that.
oh
So
yeah, yeah. When I do watch it, especially the males, I it looks I see them playing. I'm like, dang, I don't think I'll ever get to that level.
yeah, they're
just
they're
just
hit. I
by the
mean both.
serve.
Yeah, I mean both sides are hitting it pretty hard.
Oh
It's
yeah,
kind of
oh yeah.
crazy once you get to like the pro level how fast they're
Mm.
playing. But yeah, it's ridiculous. Um, but but yeah, I mean I've said like about this throughout the show, but one of the reasons why I made the pod or the show is to really offer people some value, advice, especially if they're, you know, curious about what to do next or not really sure about the options that they have. So just, as a last question and parting question as we end the show, do you have any advice for our listeners and viewers? And it doesn't have to be, professional, whatever. It can just be life advice, or just, um, you know, relationship advice. I mean, you seem like you're more successful than a lot of people. So on that front, so just give just any advice you can think of that you feel like is a good parting advice for our audience.
Yeah, so I guess one advice that I was given, and that I kind of see to be true within my life is, I guess when it comes to anything in life, as long as you put in the effort and putting the step towards it, as long as you essentially take that next step and you keep working towards it, just hardships are going to come. You're going to face hardships, but just know that as long as you keep putting the work, you're going to accomplish what you need to accomplish.
Mhm.
And it may not be in the time frame you want it to be. It may not be in as quick as you want it to be, but just know that as long as you continue taking that step, then you will ultimately achieve the goal or ultimately the thing that you need to, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree, man. Keep pushing forward. Keep, putting one foot in front of the other and keep going. And it's in hindsight, you're gonna see that,
Oh
it
yeah.
was worth the hassle. And you actually made it farther than you could have even imagined. So, definitely appreciate those parting words from our wise Rothschild guest today. But yeah, thank you for coming on the show, man. I think I appreciate the conversation. I think it was an engaging conversation, definitely good conversation to get an insight into what you do, talk about, life, how you're thinking about investing, real estate, et cetera. And so I definitely appreciate you coming on the show, and definitely feel free to come back anytime, a
Yeah.
few years down the line just to talk about, your success in real estate as well as, how you're able to make that move to consulting. We'd definitely love to have you on the show.
Yeah. Appreciate you, Victor.